Hello and welcome to the King Heroes Journey podcast. My name is Beth Martins. It's July 6, 2026. We're still here. And I'm here today with Ben Bladerunner. I've been calling him Ben from Cambridge. We're in a weird world. We're in weird times when even just asking, oh, what's your last name? Or could I use your last name? Should we even have to ask that? But that's the strange times that we're in. I'm really excited about this conversation today because honestly, I've had a number of fantasies where I was just hoping that the big, strong men would come and cut the towers down and, make a kind of war that is not as much of a feminine thing. We're gonna actually dive in with the masculine feminine conversation right away, and you're gonna get to know Ben. He is a definitely kind of a vigilante or Blade Runner. He's calling himself Blade Runner Ben. He's from Cambridge. That's how we met. Huge shout out to Diana Stewart out there who's introduced us. And so Ben decided to take action against the rollout of 5G in his local area, which is the most effective place to take any action is in your backyard, when he realized that no one else was going to do it for him. After researching what he believed were the dangers of the technology being installed, concluding that it was in fact military weapons technology, he prepared himself with the evidence he believed was necessary to defend his actions in law. I know, Ben, you're listening. We're going to try to say that exact term of the technology less, because that makes so I said it once already, but it makes this censorable video. So, you might have to say it like a kindergarten, like Senko Hey in Spanish or something, those kind of things. Just, I didn't warn you about that in advance. Ben has already been arrested twice, but not charged. And this is the very important point. It's the discovery that he's made. And so we're going to talk about the implications of that and what that means for the rest of the King heroes out there that might be as courageous. And so following a profound dark night of the soul, which is very right on point for King heroes, it's almost a requisite. If you don't go through that or even many of them, then you're probably not trying hard. And a period of purposelessness that really has been in a way answered now through direct experience that he's having these days. So without further ado, you know what, before I do that, I'm going to just let you guys know that Will Keller is also coming on tomorrow, another King hero in the freedom space who likes reality, and that's my favorite jam. So I want to make sure you guys know about that, since that's not my normal podcast time. I believe we're on at 1:30 tomorrow, 1 or 1:30, but I'll be more specific. All right, without further ado, here comes Ben.
Hey there.
Hello, Ben, and welcome to the King Heroes Journey podcast.
Thanks so much for such a nice introduction there as well. Just to nip one of those things in the bud, I'm Ben Butler. It's my surname.
Okay. There you go. Yeah, so we won't have to think it's a mystery.
Exactly. It's known around town. It's known by the authorities. It doesn't really matter to me anymore.
Right. I kind of know that, and I just also don't like to take liberty with people's names and all of that kind of thing. And I was madly trying to set up the interview so I could get away for a few days, which I did.
Lovely.
Yeah. What's that?
You got to do that every now and then these days.
Exactly. Yeah. I have no real signal there. Like I can't even get a Telegram message. And so it's really a different way to be, where there's no technology, there's no Senko Hey going on. And it's a whole different kind of a mode. And so do you want to start by letting us know, I do want to dive in with the masculine feminine thing, but before you do that, like what was, can you say anything more than what I already said about what was that moment that inspired you to take action? Like there's always a pivot point in a hero's journey where you didn't take action. Maybe you were afraid of taking action. You didn't expect to take action. Lots of unlikely heroes. And then you did. What was happening for you right and then?
So many pivotal points in the journey, of course, starting from the dark night of the soul, and everything that entailed, just the complete darkness of that time, before really surrendering and allowing the support of the beautiful creation we live in to actually carry me, and that was a very, very key moment, of course. setting the scene for everything going forwards. But really, I feel every stage of most people's awakening is so necessary. And a lot of people say, oh, there's so many men out there that aren't doing anything and they all know about this stuff and whatever. And of course, that is a necessary part of the journey, which I've realized. Eventually, you have to get sick enough of it, though, right? You're a part of all of these Telegram groups and you're getting fed all this information, and you might have tailored your algorithms to receive the information. There's willingness there. I will to really feed in as much as I can of all of this information and open to it. But then eventually you do get that message from people like yourself. There, many sleeping lions out there. Where are you? Whatever. And when you hear that enough times and you have it echoing, that kind of paired with the feeling of inaction, really. Nothing's going to get done if we just carry on consuming media, and that's it. So there came a time where 5G, I think, let's talk about it as
Okay, that's the last time I'll let you say it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Sorry.
sorry. That's okay. Yeah, just in case, it is censorable for sure.
Yeah. I was just about to say, like, as a word, I'm going to say, what was it you used?
Could be. You could try for 5 George, so you don't have to speak Spanish.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. So yeah, the thing is with the 5 George rollout is it has become very intense in the UK very, very quickly. And, they like to spring things on people very quickly. That haymaker, the punch that comes out of nowhere. And so they like people to be in a very calm, well, not calm, but docile state. Low vibration, and then suddenly everything's panic, And this has been rolled out in such a way where really nobody's seen it coming, and it all seems very normal. I see the flock cameras in the States. I don't know if that's going on in Canada or what the situation is there.
Yeah, what is a flock camera? That's at the lights?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how exactly they're positioned and things, because I haven't been over there, but it seems as if these 5 George connected cameras just all over the place all of a sudden. There was a company called Hikvision, which is a Chinese company, and it was actually outlawed in the States due to threats of national security. So they completely outlawed the sale of these cameras, and then they disappeared. And then, of course, in their place comes these flock cameras out of nowhere. So they were going to do it anyway, but just not the Chinese ones. And it's been found to have a backdoor to the CCP. So all of that image data, all of the facial recognition, everything backdoored through their networks. And in the UK, there have been concerns about a company called Huawei, which you may know.
Yes.
Yeah, this Chinese company, their hardware has been placed in from modems to street hardware and whatever. And it was also declared a threat to national security here too. But then it's now the system that all of this runs off. So it's almost every facet that you look at this from, there's major overreach and illegal behavior. It is not just the capabilities of the units that I've been disabling, it's literally everything. And when that intensity kind of hit me, and I saw, because you can look at a lot of videos on your phone, and you can kind of think like, right, okay, I get it, but let's see how this pans out with the real world. And then when the real world matches the depth of the rabbit hole you've been down, then it suddenly becomes very real, right? And that kind of answers your question. It was that was the pivotal moment, really, to see that reality actually match what I'd been looking at to be the future that was planned for us, The strangest thing about it is how defensive others are of the tech itself. So,
Mm,
for years I've heard people saying, China's a surveillance state, over there, over the hill and whatever. And then to see it rolled out on your own streets and for nobody to care is like really wild.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, the emperor has no clothes kind of effect, right? Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Well, good for you. And so what was happening in your heart and your mind at the time?
Yeah, I mean, meditation is where I process a lot of this kind of stuff. And
Good.
if something hangs around in my field for long enough, then I realize, it's a calling. Uh, it's not necessarily just a thought form. A thought form you can let move like a cloud in the sky, and it can come and go. But it's a deeper calling if it's there for a week and it's something that maybe needs to be nipped in the bud, or relationship related or whatever. Maybe I need to confront somebody about something. But then when it's hanging around for months and 6 months or a year or whatever, it's serious. They're big callings. And of course, with this whole agenda thing that's just constantly being subtly fed to us. I'm very much a believer in the future and the past not really existing, and the present only there being the only place where we really are. And this constant fear that's fed to us about the future and what it looks like and whatever, that can hang around in your field for some time. And when you see like I say, you see the actual hardware being rolled out that puts that vision into reality. Then these feelings that you feel in your body really do need to be resolved. And so in these meditations, I meditate daily, every morning, just to set myself up and feel what's going on and so forth. And it came to a point where it was like, right, well, I've got to really lean into this, start gathering evidence, start printing out the paperwork, start preparing myself, and make sure that it's coming from a place of not just anger where I go out and tear stuff down. That's where I would be locked up for sure. So yeah, emotions is such an important part of it, isn't it? you know uh,
It's oh yeah, it's nearly everything. Wow, that's so exciting to hear
yeah,
your process of it. It is like clockwork that you really don't need to teach people because it happens of its own accord. And purpose is exactly like that, that it comes up and you go like, nah, or I'm not ready, or that's too big, or that's not realistic, or whatever. And then, but it persists and it doesn't leave you alone. And sometimes it doesn't let you sleep. And it's a special kind of pain. It's not the pain, the normal pain of just unconsciously bumping up against programming all the time. There's something unique to it. It's got its own momentum.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, and most won't listen. So if people make it to the research stage, they stay in the research stage.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, in that sense, it's a very, I'm not going to use the word lonely, because I just don't. I never feel that. It's solitary, let's say.
Right.
Yeah, solitude and loneliness are very close, but not necessarily the same thing. So,
Brilliant.
um, but when you're coming to these realizations internally, um, already it's almost pointless, to express that out loud. People are going to have to go through stages to slowly learn what you're feeling and whatever. And so even with your closest, it's nice to have expectations, but for them not to be met is quite normal, of course. When you're going into this internal world that many people are avoiding because there's those traumatic obstacles which they don't want to and often can't face in their current vibration. So the whole part, the whole thing of it is that now I feel that my vibration itself actually not scares people, but it's quite jarring to people, you know, without even saying any words about what's happening with me. I must just be holding this energy, you know, and to go where there maybe isn't a path or breadcrumbs. That's it. I've gone into the wilderness by myself, and that's the hero's journey, isn't it? You know,
It really is. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's a lot of self-awareness. I love your distinction between solitary and alone. And that's what the hero's journey is. It's like walking the plank and there's only room for you. Doesn't mean that there's not going to be a lot of people involved, but in terms of like who's the front runner, the Blade Runner,
yeah,
then that would be you.
yeah,
And then I've been listening to a lot of Gurdjieff's work lately, and he just says point blank that we might be talking and using the same words, but we don't understand each other. And that, you know, I'm more similar to a mouse in essence than I am to you. And, you know, so the understanding and expressing purpose can be really fruitless if, because like you
absolutely.
said, it's going to confront people. It makes them see that they're maybe not on a purposeful path, or they just don't understand it and they get scared for you, or yeah, so expression can be a very difficult thing. And then breadcrumbs, that's my one of my all-time favorite words. Is I just feel like I'm always okay, I'm available for breadcrumbs. If there's any breadcrumbs in the zone, then bring it on. Oh, one little breadcrumb I can follow. You know, it
Yeah.
doesn't even necessarily mean that's the right direction. It means it's your next step.
Yeah, yeah, I get you. Yeah, that's very similar to something that I often say, which is that if the whole playing field was lit up in front of you, it wouldn't be, you know, the exciting journey that it is. And obviously, it would be a bit less scary. But to have each footstep lit up in front of you is like a necessary part of the design. You know, the beauty of having to trust, you know, and yeah, just having to, every breath is a new birth, you know. And so that process of stepping through fear and coming into the new normal, I mean, I don't mean to use that term, you know,
Yeah.
every moment is an opportunity to come back into ourselves. And very much it's, like I said earlier, the past and the future just don't exist. And so to keep here in the present, what am I being shown, and where am I going, without direction, like you say, is really the key. Just having faith.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, that's beautiful. You use two important words, trust and faith. That
Mm.
that brings two archetypes forward. One is the child. The child needs to trust, and the faith is actually the prostitute, where you might sell out for fear of not surviving rather than
Mm.
hold to integrity and truth. And
Interesting.
yeah, yeah. And then the mistake is always that the trust is put in man, right? In some other man, in your man, and trust doesn't belong there. Same with faith, right? You can't have faith in another person. They're going to let you down. Sooner
Mm.
or later, it's going to happen, not because they want to or they're mean or anything like that. It's just part of that reality. So and I can hear it. You're finding the much deeper place for that trust and faith
Yeah.
to love.
Yeah. That's it. And it brings up something with me, that I'll try and explain. But I'm very much like, if the future and the past don't really exist, then everything is non-linear, right? And with a lot of this technology that we're talking about waves. It's like sine waves, right? And that's how they're expressed in science. But if you take away the timeline, which is the horizontal line, these are actually just circles and spirals.
Squirrels. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And they're changing in form, you know, between two limits. But you take that out and you're like, okay, we're toroidal fields, and you know, it comes into this electromagnetic universe stuff, you know. And that very much ties into this kind of faith, you know, like when you raise your vibration through you know, having faith in who you are, where you are, and what's happening, and you know that it's all perfect, that there really isn't anything negative going on. Your field, as it were, then starts to allow in so much more, because the lack of those things creates obstacles, doesn't it? So yeah.
I won't harp on it, but maybe we could take that a level deeper at some point. By the way, are you familiar with Dawn Lester? She at least was in the chat before. She's in
Hey,
the UK. Yeah, you know Dawn?
yeah, very
Okay.
well. Yeah,
I thought if you guys weren't connected, I should introduce you since you're in the same zone. And Dawn does a lot of, is connected with a lot of events that I bet they'd want to have you come in
absolutely.
and speak and tell your stories.
Yeah.
And yeah, so do you want to just describe? Oh, you're still here. Awesome. Nice. That's great to have you here. Do you want to just tell us this was something that say I think we have one of those exact cameras across the street. If I stand up, I'll be in the camera.
Right.
You know, it's far away and or not that far away. I mean, and I would always have these fantasies. I even started looking up. Now I'm not going to go and get the thing, but what was I going to buy a something like an axe or a like it's an electric axe or what are the words of those kind of tools?
Angle grinder,
That's one of
maybe.
them.
So that would be like a small disc that's like rotating quite quickly, usually for cutting metal.
Okay, okay,
You can get circular saws that cut metal, or
okay,
and
okay.
then
Yeah, I can't remember what I was looking up. So
yeah,
hacksaw, maybe hacksaw.
yeah, that would do it.
Okay, okay, yeah, yeah. Like I was just, I got so fed up. It's like, okay, you know, are we going to start climbing tires and towers and getting out the hacksaw and
Yeah,
stuff like that, and then it just has to settle because it's like, no, as a woman I'm not going to do that. No, as a mother I'm not sending my 19-year-old out to do that, even if he wanted to, which I don't think he's dumb enough, unfortunately, or not unfortunately, fortunately,
yeah,
to do that. And so it was, yeah, it was one of those. I bet so many people had the fantasy chainsaw. No, it's not a chainsaw, Mike, but welcome. I think it was hacksaw,
yeah.
electric something, yeah. And so like what did it mechanically require of you to go through? What did you physically have to end up doing?
I had the same fantasies,
Mhm.
you know. Of course, the beginning of the rollout for everybody has been these big monopoles and towers and stuff like that, and they're like really behemoths, you know. Like, how are we gonna do this, you know? And what I started doing was I got into Orgonite and started gifting around the area, if you know about any of that. But basically burying Orgonite, which transmutes the EMFs into positive energies. And to be honest, I've felt great results. I also use a Cloud Buster as well, and I've got pretty good results with that over the year and a half that I've had it. But there's still part of me that's just like, you know, this isn't it. You know, it's part of it, but really, the message needs to be sent too. You know, that we're not here and just going to not draw a line in the sand. You know, and the thing is with the towers in the UK is they're protected by the Terrorism Act. They have smart water in them. If you break them open, you get covered in smart water. It has tiny chips in the water, and they basically scan you, and it tells them exactly where you've been and what box you broke into and so on, right? So it's like dangerous game, you know. Terrorism Act has been absolutely abused recently. You know, there's people who are protesting for Palestine action who are getting done on the Terrorism Act and remanded in custody and thrown in jail and whatever. It's like it's turning into quite a lawless place here. And hence why, you know, as a man, I didn't have that. You know, there's obviously a battle there, like as a female going, I can't do it, but no one else is. you know, whereas with me, I'm like, I've got to do it. You know, like I'm the archetype, I'm the being that's here to, you know, act, right? And so I've never burnt down a 5G tower, just to let you know. Like, I'm sorry, 5 George.
That's okay.
Yeah. But either way, it was the rollout of this smaller stuff where I started to have, you know, this huge compassion, where everywhere that I was going, I was aware that this stuff was there. And I'm seeing people walking their dogs and taking their kids. Their kids have ice creams and they're all happy and skipping along, you know. And they're just getting showered in radar, which is, you never point it at human. And to see that happening, and, you know, I might be sitting in my van on the way to work or whatever, and I'm watching these people getting killed, essentially, you know, very slowly. And, you know, it's not necessarily fast. It definitely could be with these units from the research that's been put into them. But plausible deniability is the term that they use, right? They want plausible deniability. If somebody turns up and says, you know, I got cancer and it was you doing this, they want to be able to say, don't be silly, you know, you're going crazy, whatever. And that's where all of the fake guidelines of all of this stuff really comes into play. You know, you'll probably be put into a mental institution before those words land in a court. You know what I mean? So plausible deniability is what it's all about. And then as I've grown in my spiritual journey, this compassion, just people watching, is such a beautiful thing for me now. You know, my judgment levels are so low and my forgiveness levels are so high and whatever, that anybody walking down the street, you know, I just deeply love them, you know. And that was very much part of this mechanism of getting me out as well. You know, just what have they done? You know, you sprung 2020 on them, and there was a pseudo choice in all of that jazz, right? And we had a choice, so to speak, but now suddenly no one does, and it's covert and plausibly deniable and so on. And so I decided to draw the line in the sand where other people weren't aware we had to, you know, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so you have a lot of receipts. You have proof about what's being done. And we'll get to why that's a bit of a standoff. But do you want to share some of that evidence with us so people are aware of it?
For sure, yeah. So, I mean, I've got a few things up here. If I don't speak it out loud, then I'm guessing it won't be a kind of censorship issue.
Yeah, I don't think so. And it might not be, but I know repeated repetition of certain things, they get more and more attention. We're also not like angry and yelling, so that helps.
Yeah.
Just being calm is a really good thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm actually just going to share my screen. I haven't got anything that I need to hide. So if that's all right.
Sure. Yeah, it'll pop up on my end, and then I'll add it to the screen. And if you're there in the chat, come say hello. Let us know who's out there. We'd love to talk to you. If you guys have any questions that I don't think to ask, feel free to jump in.
Okay. I'm just thinking where to start. So basically, we've got this document here. This is a United States patent for phased array electromagnetic weapon. You can see up there at the top. Can you see my screen? Yeah,
I can see it. Is there a way? Can you close the left-hand column?
yeah, there we go.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, exactly. Nice.
Perfect.
That's great.
Yeah, so electromagnetic weapon from 2006. It's all post year 2000. You know, the stuff that's really in our sphere now. But you'll see where it's highlighted in yellow, the phased array, an electromagnetic weapon that includes semi-randomly arranged antenna a central weapon computer. I'll go in quickly into what that actually means. There's not much other, information on here that's necessarily.
Just to spell it out, this is the patent technology that you're talking, the patented technology that you're discussing that you've been taking down.
Exactly. Yeah. And essentially what this does, I'll stop sharing there for a moment and come back onto screen. Essentially what these phased array elements do, they are antennas, and they are capable of what's called beam forming. They use the same waves, but in or out of phase, in order to direct the beams at targets. And with these particular units, there are a couple of different ones, but one of them has 32 antennas, usually 16 transmitters and 16 receivers. And they can be programmed on a software level to do differently. But either way, they can sense where somebody is on, for example, the traffic light system exactly. And they can also transmit this frequency at that target as well. And this is a target acquisition system. It's not a sensor. These sensors you've seen for many years usually just have a diffuser, like a white casing over the top of it. And if something moves in that frame, then it turns on, right, for the light. Whereas with this, it's very much a targeting system. And of course, then you ask, okay, what are they targeting and why? And the official narrative is that if somebody falls down in the middle of the street while crossing the road, the lights will stay red and it will stop them being run over.
Right.
Yeah, great. So for our safety, of course. But when you get into really the long and short of this stuff, hello, Audrey. When you get into the long and short of this stuff, you see that it's one large weapon, right? It's not just this one thing and that other thing. All of it really links together. And we've found that people over the last few years have had certain implantations into their body which do emit MAC addresses, low energy Bluetooth MAC addresses. And even without that, if you're walking around with your device, that's emitting a low energy Bluetooth MAC address and various other addresses, including IPs and so on. So there's a triangulation that goes on with every single one of us, where if they recognize, or if the system recognizes your phone MAC address and you've got that in your pocket, then it's going to assume with quite a high degree of certainty that that is you crossing the crossing, right? And what I've come to find is that the digital ID is already here. It's all been tagged somehow. If you're familiar with Sabrina Wallace and her work, she talks a lot about the being linked into the system through our auric field. Just that alone, it's really, really incredible. You have to clap these people when you look into how amazing this technology is. But when you look at the frequencies that are being used, down to like nanoscale, mesoscopic scales, this is where it comes into the kind of vibrations that come from our minds. And then going back to these units, you've got transmitters and receivers. So that means that they can, if they're using those frequencies and they're small enough to sense thought forms, then they're not only sort of targeted at reading thought forms, but they're also implanting and messing with and so on. And that lines up with a lot of ex-military whistleblowers who have worked with microwaves and this kind of technology, where it's been used for a very long time to do exactly that. The Cuba Havana syndrome and voice to skull, and politicians complaining that they're losing their minds all of a sudden when they're out on conferences in other countries. And Yeah, there's even a case of, in the UK, there were female protesters protesting against an American military base, which was harboring loads of missiles for a war that they didn't like. And so they went and protested outside, and they were being shot with radar, turning them crazy, and, turning them against each other. And of course, eventually giving them cancers and other, very difficult diseases, So it's not new. And
Mhm.
that's what kind of fascinates me, because the paperwork is all there. The receipts are all there. And there's nothing that can be done to suppress that, except for smear and censor, of course.
And often rename, right? Like they take the same thing and they just give it a new brand,
Yeah,
and then everybody thinks it's something different
for
than that
sure.
was. Boy, you said a lot in there. First of all, do you think that the DEWs, you know what that acronym is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you think that's what they're using to start the fires in Maui and LA and all of Kelowna, wherever they've been?
Yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
mean, probably quite a good time for me just to quickly go into how I kind of got into this.
Sure.
And it does feed into my hero's journey in a sense, because in 2008, I went to university and studied aerospace. A lot of my tutors and, teachers were weapons people.
Okay.
And yeah, I did a lot of waking up in those 3 years, a lot. And a lot of the people around me were not going down that road at all. They were very excited about going into these companies and whatever. And I was learning about inbuilt obsolescence and how, as an engineer, you kind of force people to keep buying stuff. And I was learning about weapons guidance, missile guidance, and aircraft design and radar, strangely. I didn't realize at the time, it all seemed very mundane. Why am I learning this?
Wow. See how
Uh,
those things line up like that? Amazing.
Absolutely. And that's something that I want to say about this, like, non-linear uh, thing which we live in, which is that all of those mundane experiences that you've had throughout your life, at the moment that you have the will, your will changes to, I want to know who I am. All of those mundane experiences suddenly become these huge gifts, you know, and your whole past transforms in a sense, which is hence why it's not really real, because for your whole life you could only see it as a really dark, not very nice experience, and then all of a sudden it can be hugely awakening. um, but yeah, just to get back to my uni experience, um, we at the time we were learning about all of these different facets to engineering, and one thing that I took a lot of interest in around 2007, 2008 was chemtrails. I think I remember a friend of mine mentioning it to me just sort of in passing, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And then, of course, couldn't stop seeing it. And no one around me was talking about it back then. Obviously, the internet's, a very different thing now,
Mhm.
and it's quite mainstream in a way. How can it not be? Because it's right up there, for everyone to see. But I decided to ask a bunch of my lecturers, and, so what do you think about this? And they're like, well, it exists, of course. They've been doing it for years. One of them even said to me, it goes back as early as 1905 to 1910. Not necessarily in flight, but the cloud seeding and that kind of stuff. So I suddenly was like, okay, so they know, and they obviously know about that thin line between weapons and, let's say, constructive technology, which everything has that thin line, of course, even
Does it,
food.
yeah, does everything have both capacities to construct or destroy, or is that not a
I would say yes, for sure. Like, that's why we were trained in inbuilt obsolescence, for example. It's like something that's good for you can be created to not last, and so on. And all of the different facets that we were learning about were essentially tools so we can help, help by designing things, but then also turn it into a perpetual machine, money making machine at the same time. And that fed into, one of my housemates went into wind turbines, for example. Another one went into flying, and I don't know whether he's aware of the spraying and things or not, but either way, they went on their paths. And at that moment, having woken up to a great extent through the course that I was doing and realizing that the lecturers were in a revolving door from the industry to come and teach the next generation of people to come and work in the aerospace industry and so on, I couldn't vibrate with it. I couldn't resonate with it at all. And that actually led to my dark night. It was the first seed, because I left that institution thinking like, there's no way I can go into any of these businesses that are there, at the graduate fair saying, come and work for us and whatever. And they knew that as soon as I walked into any interview, they were like, this guy is not going to be good for us,
One of these things is not like the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're obviously highly receptive to people's energies, the interviewers, right? And I spent a long time just, why did I do any of that? I've now got a mountain of debt and so on, no job, no highly paid things, going back to manual labor and whatever. But all of it ended up being exactly perfect. So
amazing. So good. I'm going to look at the chat for a few minutes since I invited people to come in and say hi. And Mike was saying he's right. We've had digital ID since the smartphone became ubiquitous in society. The government digital ID is just a rollout of official legislation making the system acceptable to people. And I'll just add quickly to that. I bet you have more to say, Ben, is that they do need us to consent, because otherwise their job is way too big. But if they get our buy-in, that happened, our census again, well, they could just send me a letter and say, Beth, you're going to go to jail if you don't, or you're going to get a big fine if you don't do this. But they don't do that. They need me to volunteer. So they don't put my name on anything. They'll bang on my door and they'll phone my phone and they will threaten and show up at the door and everything. But they still need me to write my name on the form. Why is that? Right? That there's so that it's a yeah. Anyway, do you want to add anything more to that?
Absolutely. I mean, it's something that I've been looking into for a long time. The whole law system, being brought up in Cambridge. There's a college in Cambridge University that pretty much founded the maritime law documents. The documents are kept there. It's called Trinity Hall, and so I've always been interested in that legalese, consent. The legal side, not the lawful, and so on. And
right. I apologize. Let's not get into that, because unfortunately there's so much. I've been in this rabbit hole too much, and there's so much not true.
Absolutely.
And so then, it's too big. It's too big a debate for the topic that we're wanting to cover today. But
well, I was just going to swerve out of it anyway. I have
a habit. Okay, good. I'm like, no, I'm gonna have to.
You're good.
Just
I feel very liberated by what's going on at the moment, because it's swept all of that, as you nearly said, garbage out of the way. It's such a complex thing, but I like to keep things simple, and consent is really all that they're after.
Amazing. Oh, good for you. I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Good. I'm really glad.
I know how complicated it can get. And as I think it was Mike said, these devices are the consent. You consent to everything by using them. It's as good as a signature. I mean, a lot of us have put our fingerprints on it and face stuff. And
I've now been fingerprinted. They wouldn't let me leave the country for to go to Acapulco without it. So it was like, okay, now I'm.
That's it. Great to mention Acapulco as well. It's got a close place to my heart. I went there in 2022.
Oh, fun! I wouldn't have seen you there. We were on lockdown. I spoke but
Ah,
remotely. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I may have seen you. I'm not sure, but yeah. So I mean, with the fingerprints and stuff, you know, I've been drawing really hard lines with everything since 2020. You know, I've been very full on at times, and you know, my my wife is still with me, so that's great.
That
But
is.
you know, testing because I'm 120% or nothing kind of person. And so when this calling came, you know, we need to start drawing lines in the sand and really learning about this stuff. I just became a sponge and went down every rabbit hole, looked into everything, and one of the things that I was like, I draw a hard line is the digital ID, you know, the fingerprints, the facial recognition, and whatever. And the liberation from that, you know, restriction that I was putting on myself essentially was in the form of my arrest, because you get into the custody suite and they go, so you're giving us your DNA and your facial recognition and your fingerprints, and we have you know, legal right to force it off you if you don't want. So
Right.
you know, I'm not running, I'm not trying to get away or whatever. So I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. So I'm doing the digital ID stuff, like laughing inside because I was like, ah, you got me, you know.
Good for
But
you.
then 2 days after my arrest, we had a holiday booked and it was to Finland. And I was going to use a travel waiver that I'd created to try and, you know, contract them out of it, essentially. You know, you have to sign here to show that my data isn't going to get lost in a breach or so on. And I was going to see if it worked. And it didn't. You know, they're pretty hard on it now. But at that point, I was like, it's already done, you know? And once it's done, you know, what can you do? You want to go and see friends. This is something that Dawn, you know, definitely planted a seed with my wife and I, where it's like, you know, it's part of your path to go and see your friends, and if you want to go and have fun with them, then you know sometimes you need to give a little. And these things are of the body as well; they're not of the soul, you know. So there is always that as well.
That's a great point, actually, because
Mm,
that's part of our struggle is that our centers are all mixed up. So you know that this whole thing is for the body. It's not for the emotions.
mm,
But so then we go and we feel bad about it. You know, we maybe feel sad or on the scale, you feel rage, or then you're into pride or something like that. But that's all, you know, garbage
mm,
compared to what's real and what's actually happening. You know, that's just all sideways kind of distraction away from. So there is control over the body. That's not new, right?
yeah,
That is not new. It's always been the case. It's now just maturing into a digital kind of a place, and yeah, there's heinous potential in it. That's true too. So, but yeah,
mm,
I hear a lot of surrender, and then it's getting once you have purpose, you've got something to measure everything against. You know, so for me, going to speak at an Acapulco was more full of purpose than me refusing to fly and just like back out of the trip,
absolutely,
right?
yeah,
So it's like, okay, you got my fingerprints. All right. You abused me, you stressed me out. I got pretty sick after that, actually, from the stress and the trip and everything.
mm,
And you know, but it's just again, it's always in that context of purpose that you can evaluate, is this worth it or not? You know, so
sure. And yeah, you know, obviously the hero's journey involves cuts and bruises along the way,
ugh,
and yeah,
yeah.
without it, it wouldn't have that crystallizing effect, you know.
Yeah, and the fact is to add to that wisdom is that there are cuts and bruises. We're in a bad place. And so are you going to have cuts and bruises with something that's full of life and purpose for you, or are you going to have them for no reason or no good
Absolutely.
reason, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is my soapbox if I have one.
Yeah.
Jackie Kay also said she's seen a list of patents going back to 1892.
For
For
what
what in particular, she actually clarified immediately after weather mod patents.
I
Yeah.
can imagine so.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1892. I mean, without going down the kind of alternative history rabbit hole, but I've got a book of patents from Nikola Tesla. And there are very elaborate patents for electric motors from the 1850s, 1860s. You know, it completely annihilates a lot of the history that we've been taught, especially when they're dressing all of this stuff up as new, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got these Indian temples that literally look like the inside of turbine engines. If you've ever looked into that, and you know, even the Mayan calendar, it has a turbine kind of feel to it, right? This spiraling, almost compressing of some kind of pranic energy to it. You know, there's the more that my eyes have opened, and I like to see things mathematically and patterns and so on. I also have teachers who are numerologists as well, which I think helps. But I see in logos and symbols and things actually that they are flaunting their knowledge of the occult, the hidden engineering, the hidden technology, the hidden spells and language and so on. And for example, the Volkswagen logo, to me, it doesn't look like a VW anymore. It looks like what's called Rodin's vortex-based mathematics, which exactly the same symbol is actually how you create a torus field by wrapping copper cable around a donut shape in the manner that it describes on that symbol. And having gone through the process of making one of those Rodin coils, they're called, I suddenly am like, wow, like they're actually just showing us that they know about fields, energies. And we're obviously inside one of their mechanisms, let's say, in a sense. So yeah, loads of questions are created by going down those rabbit holes. But yeah, just to touch on that and get back into the matter at hand.
Right, exactly. If you don't mind, a few more chats. Mike said that engineering students are indoctrinated to consider planned obsolescence and normal design theory.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
One of my lecturers he worked for Ford, and he was given a Ford motor engine, Ford engine, and it would run perfectly forever. That's what he was told when he first got it. He was like, we know that this runs forever. We've had them running for 30 years or whatever in a lab, and they just don't break. So your job is to work out first how many revolutions the average customer would do in the warranty period.
Mm-hmm.
Revolutions of the engine, not even miles, right? So they're going down to this microscopic kind of design level where it's like, okay, the average person from the questionnaires drives this amount, and they work out how many exact revolutions of the engine. And then they would design imperfections into piston heads, for example, and then run it to that amount of revolutions, plus, let's say 20%, just to give a bit of leeway. And then, it broke, and it was about honing in that breaking as soon as possible after the warranty period.
They got that science right down. It's like to the day when things break down, and then you check the warranty. Always, it was designed to break now, just after you could do anything about it.
Exactly. But I mean, something that I've been very fascinated about is how long my phone has lasted, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't run a typical OS on it. I run a kind of privacy OS and whatever. But this thing has lasted me for ages. It's a really old model, and it gives me a clue as to, why we have them. They don't want them to break. They want them to be, if you upgrade, sold to somebody else, so we can have more people in the network, of course. And right. So because they're nodes that are feeding information, they don't want them breaking, and that's quite clear,
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's insightful. Amazing.
Mm.
And welcome, Lisa. Nice to have you here. Don said that same for you going to the US. You had to give your fingerprints, but the trip was more important. There you go. Yeah, we got plans. And Mike said they're behind. That's funny when people listen on 1.5. That's kudos to you. And Audrey, sorry to hear that. We should connect. I messaged you on Telegram, by the way. So yeah, it's there's more potential than ever for people to go down right now. And you've kind of been saying this in some ways too, that the greater the forces against us, it's hard to believe, but the more you actually have to work with, because without, this is going to sound like really out there for some people, but without suffering and struggle, then our tendency is just to default into a kind of comfortable place. We just want to be happy. We just want to have our needs met. We just want to go along to get along. We want people to be happy with us. We want, not disappoint people. We want to have love. And so, but as soon as, that's why 2020, I started going probably double or more speed. It was just my engine, like, okay, it's now. I'm like, and I kind of ran myself. I also had a breakdown some years, maybe 3-4 years later. It was kaboom, she's out and needs to digest a little bit of what I've been through and stuff. But yeah, and all adversity can be used for freedom. So that's the one thing that our controllers I don't know if they do factor that in, or that's one chance that humanity has still to awaken, or at least some. And then that you can use all of that for your freedom, and that's not just lip service or a slogan on my part. I see it every single day. People do that, which is an act of, it's an act of bravery, and it's not easy, and it's not common. It's a very narrow path. Rare souls, I say a lot these days.
Yeah.
And so you also talked a little bit about the how they, it's not just receiving our data, they're transmitting. That's obvious from the billboard, from the phone, the ads, YouTube ads. They're obviously always marketing to us, keeping that level of the economy going. But this next level that you're talking about, how they can actually transmit skull to voice to skull what you're saying, and start talking to you. This is another level of work that, as a meditator, right, that you become vigilant with your own thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely.
And right. And I have had the pleasure of working with Micah Ellers, who's introduced to me this concept of false personalities. Are you into Gurdjieff's work at all?
I haven't gone into it in great detail, but read the odd post.
You're familiar?
Get fed the odd post from him, and go into it slightly.
Okay, good. And so the concept of false personalities being that, in a way, none of the thoughts are our own. Like Gurdjieff would say, we don't have any real thoughts. We're only having the scripts and the slogans of all of these. This could be legion of false personalities. I inherited the work of Lester Levinson, and that's simplified down into programs so that you're not, yes, there are thousands of false personalities, but at least there's a discrete number of archetypal programs to work with. But I'm getting more and more in the habit of when I hear something, it's like, who said that? And I want to trace back, and it's like, okay, show yourself, I'm available. And they're like, oh, I'm out of here. I don't, because they don't want to be seen. That's the end of them when you truly see them for what they are.
Yeah. I mean, I've been through several different sort of stages and epochs, if you like, about what I feel that is. Like you've sort of suggested, like taking away the identity from them, not angels and demons necessarily. But, you can see it through a purely technological lens, if you like, where it's like the technology that's being rolled out, a lot of it is Chinese. It's not of our country, for example. It's a weapon, and therefore, are these images, often violent images or violent dreams and whatever, they are abominations. They, if they're not from love, then they're not from you. You can be that blunt about it. I know there's a lot of people would say, no, you've got to embody the anger and the violence and whatever. But no, I've come to realize that we are loving beings, and this is an implant of sorts. And I think some of it actually is through the internet, through the devices. I have gone down the kind of the way of feeling like it's the network itself is the roads upon which the demons and angels travel. because also amazing things have happened to me through the internet and coincidences, you know, where I'm clearly being fed things that are going to aid me on my journey as well. So it's just incredible technology. And through meditation one day, I got this message which said, failures are lessons, successes are blessings. And, you know, it creates this scenario where there isn't a negative. You know, if you feel you've failed, learn and move on.
Right. If you consciously make it so, that is completely true. It won't happen by itself, but yeah, brilliant. That's amazing, Ben.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear all of that. And yeah, we don't progress from complacency at all. I know it was nice to go and be off, sort of off grid in a way, not electrically, but I couldn't really get online. I could barely send a text the last few days, and I did if I spent more and more days there, I bet it would just like bleh, I would melt out, and because my purpose calls.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that being in the world yet not of it is something that I've been wrestling with for some time in different fields. For about a year and a half, I was so strong on my meditation and yoga practice that it was all that really mattered in every day. I woke up every day at 4:50 and I was on my mat by 5:30, and you know, I had very kind of strict regime, and it was really doing wonders for me, but very much in that right brain zone. It was very necessary because it brought my body back online in the way that's now balanced me with the coming back into the world, if you know what I mean. Yeah, it did a lot of that that work that was necessary to snap me out of the old programs. And now I find myself back in my hometown after all these failed lessons, these trips away, trying to find another place, going to Mexico and Portugal. And eventually it was like, no, back home. And, you know, as a new person, the hero's journey once again, isn't it? And yeah, it's something that being in the world yet not of, I like to put it in the kind of warrior saint spectacle as well, where it's like, to be on your mat is also to be a warrior as well, right? To actually listen to your thoughts instead of block them out like we do constantly and so on. But then there's also this saintly element to it, the bhakti shakti kind of thing. And then that brings you back into the world as somebody who can stand up and can, you know, do things. You can know yourself to an extent where you can go out and do things that other people would think about but wouldn't do. And so it's all just been such a divine course, you know.
Very good. I love that warrior saints. That's so cool. And then, yeah, hometown. So one of the big psyops, maybe we can segue into the masculine feminine from here, was to get us to move away from our home. Right. And of course, I consider Mexico, because it's more or less warm there all the time, seemed like a good growing zone, although it's not that great for some of the things I maybe would have eaten. Now I don't anymore. And then, yes, like to destabilize people, to get them away from their normal networks, their actual roots, you know, like the bones of ancestors have been buried here for a little while anyway, not forever. But there's something about that in terms of reception and transmission through our own ancestry. I don't know if you go there at all, but yeah, there's something that keeps me in my hometown for now. Anyway, I still do have a dream about not being under such of the, you know, just Canadian everything. It's
Yeah.
really don't like it here. There's so many things. Like I can't get flour that's not poisoned. Oh, great. It's literally illegal for me to buy a flour that's not poisoned. So, you know, amazing that's even, that's not new. It's just now I'm very aware of the reality of that.
Is that both flour to bake with and flours as well?
No, the flour to bake with. That's correct. Yeah. So by law, if you make a white flour, which turns out to be the healthiest, this might go against common knowledge, but the refined everything that you find nearly anywhere in the world, where it's the white rices, the white flours, everything, um, they've removed a lot of toxicity that way. So then our government says, "Oh no, you can't have poison-free anything. So you're going to have to quote unquote enrich and fortify with
Mm,
vitamin A, which is a poison, um, folic acid, which is definitely not a nutrient like it's been promoted.
yeah.
What else you got in there?
The bees and
A, yeah, the
yeah,
nicotinamide, exactly, which is a distant cousin of a very needed B vitamin, niacin, flush niacin, but it's not that, and it is toxic. So
yeah.
anyway, there's my
Oh.
rant. I'm having a hard time feeding myself right now in that
Yeah,
way.
that's all happening here. And um, funnily enough, I could go down this rabbit hole for a while as well. But what's happened over the last few years, moving back and being in this, new way of being, let's say, I've found local growers who have been selling out of their front gardens for 20 years, and I just never knew about them. And I just
Nice.
stumble across them, and my eyes are open to that kind of activity now, especially from going to Mexico and going to the Greater Reset and Acapulco and things, thinking about starting alternative networks and whatever. So I see this guy in his front garden selling fresh chicken eggs that haven't been stamped, and the chickens are unvaccinated, and he gets everything locally and so on. And it's just my food system has sorted itself out. Yeah, I have to go quite a long way to get those eggs, and I have to go a long way to get this, but the feeling of self-care is really worth it.
Nice.
um, yeah, I mean, we do have similar issues. I think Canada sounds a little bit further down the tracks in some ways. And another very interesting thing that I found is that each country seems to have its own agenda that's being pushed. It's almost like they're testing different things in different places.
Yes.
Yeah, and I find it very interesting to hear, how things are elsewhere. But in the UK right now, for sure, it's this traffic system. The traffic adaptive network, basically. And to be a canary in the coal mine, for you guys, that's what the Blade Runners are doing, and that's what we're kind of here for at the moment. Blow it up, get as many views as possible, make sure people are seeing it. There's massive censorship going on with my friends at the moment, and it's just a constant battle. But what's happening in the States seems to be a proof that we can connect, and we can let each other know, especially in English speaking countries, that we are protected by law.
Yeah. Yeah. There's still common law. Exactly. Jenny said there's a YouTuber you follow who makes blog style videos, recently talked about her feeling vibrations and not being diagnosed, looking for answers. I sort of get that. Jenny, I think that was back to the discussion about how our thoughts can be, or thoughts can be transmitted to us. And
Mm.
she doesn't appear to be in the conspiracy world at all, but you always think of her when you hear these discussions.
Mm.
Jackie Kay said, I think going away to uni was the start of it.
Yeah,
You know,
certainly.
yeah, exactly.
I would imagine that, was it Jenny? I can imagine that she was probably talking about that plausible deniability element
Okay.
that we were talking of earlier, where,
Okay, good.
yeah, these technologies, you have to, from the designer's perspective, allow for these technologies to work on a level that, to a nurse or a doctor, they are not diagnosable. They are in the teachings that I've very much embodied within me. There's 10 spiritual bodies, and above 5, so from 6 to 10, they're all etheric. They're all non-visible. So up to 5 is the physical body and the mind, and then from there onwards you've got your arc line and aura and so on, and all of these weapons work within those bodies, and that creates this plausible deniability. And Also, the reason why it feels like a spiritual war, because it's being waged in the etheric sort of space, right? So
Principalities. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And having reached out to a doctor very recently and blown off, basically they said that I was believing in my symptoms, and that happens more and more because our symptoms often are from this etheric zone, especially when talking about EMFs and these technologies that are being rolled out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's it. So kind of to get back to my story regarding that, like
Mm-hmm.
my conviction in what I was doing had to be absolute, which is why I started going, like you said, during COVID, to really go 2 times the speed, start learning, and being the change that you wish to see. And in doing so, I knew of Mark Steele. Do you know of the guy?
Yes.
Yeah. I knew of him long ago, and have been following him for some years, even before his. In 2018, he was taken to court, and he was being smeared as a conspiracy theorist. But the judge in that courtroom basically said to him, after he gave his evidence and showed his knowledge, the judge said, "This isn't the conspiracy theorist most of you think it is. This is a highly knowledgeable man, right?" And just to touch on that legalese, judges don't use words, willy nilly, right? And so it was from that era that I was like, okay, there's something in this. And then along we tick, and now all of this, let's say, invisible weaponry is right here in the open. So my conviction levels when realizing that the crossing literally just down the road where I walk my dog, for example, is blasting me with this technology. It was like, right, I need to crystallize all of the knowledge that I've learned into a simple pack of documents as possible, so I can be ready for what's coming, essentially. And that process was the most important part of my journey in recent months, I would say.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
And so, like, what does it actually look like when you take out the 5G George technology?
Well, how it started was I really didn't want to be too, destructive,
Mm-hmm.
let's say. I went out the first time, and these units are on a kind of pivot because they need to be aimed. And I've seen the documents. It literally teaches the installer how to aim it at people. It's got a gun sight on it, as in like the two bits, right? And it's in the plastic molding. And then it's got this pivot where you can lock it in place. So they use the gun sight to aim it at people, which radar should never be aimed at people. It's just a fact, straight fact. And then they lock it in place with the bolt, so it ends up stuck in place. And then the phased array does the tracking, so it doesn't have to move as a unit. It moves the waveform by its internal computing, essentially. Anyway, so when I first went out, I was just getting them and just wrenching them up so they were facing the sky.
Okay.
And I was just like, let's see how quickly they get put back.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm an engineer, it's like I'm always testing. It's like, let's just see how quickly they get put back. Bear in mind, all of the roads in England are completely ruined. Like, they're all filled with potholes. Everybody's paying road tax. It's not going there. It's
So
whatever.
not just Canada, hey?
No, that's
Okay.
it. I mean, it's all part of the breakdown of our Western societies, but either way, they don't have the money to fix the potholes, drivable roads, but they've got money to send people out and move this thing that I wrenched up towards the sky within a day.
One day.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It was like 24 hours later, I went to walk and I was like, oh, already? Who would have thought, right? So they obviously want these things aiming at people.
Yeah. And did they not by that point, like, could you have done it anonymously, or like how did you physically dress and everything like that? I'm just trying to get a picture of the scene.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because of one of my sort of spiritual mentors, walking through my fear has been like one of the biggest, most powerful energies that I've known. I'm now almost guided by fear. I go towards it rather than away. And
Amazing.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's kind of years of training. I started by doing something called rejection therapy, where I don't know if you've heard of it, but you'd have, say, 50 cards that had some kind of embarrassing action or something to do. Go and speak to a random person in the street and ask them if they want to play rock, paper, scissors, something silly like that. But the amount of fear that you have to step through to do those really silly, childlike often things, just to go and spread love and joy and whatever. And that was like the beginning. And then it came into this essentially. And yeah, to answer your question, the first time I went hoodie and, I was only moving this thing. I wasn't
And did
making.
you have to climb up? Did you need a ladder? It was very high?
Yeah, I mean, so the exclusion zone via the like official radiation safety documents is like 3 meters. So a lot of these things are 3 meters high. They're
Oh,
on top of the poles.
okay, so 3 meters is, pretty high.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably double my height. But they're designed in such a way where you've got brackets for the lights to grab onto, and then you've got the buttons that you press to trigger the pedestrian crossings, which is kind of a funny thing anyway, because that's how they've always worked and they're still there working. Yet they say that these things are changing the lights automatically, right? There's so many just things that don't make sense, but people don't seem to think anymore. But either way, so I'd climb up the brackets and then onto the button box, and then I'd be up there. And the first time, it was like my hood fell down, and I was trying to put it up, and obviously very scary. People are going to see me. There's a car coming, and so on. It was difficult to get up the first time, for example.
How
And
did
then
how did you climb? Just like a monkey, or did you use a ladder or something? A chair?
never used a ladder. I've always been
Okay.
fairly good at climbing, and yeah, I used to rock climb and things like that. But
Oh, good.
I've always kept very fit, especially in this day. My body's singing more than it ever has, really, because of my
Nice.
practice and whatever. So I kind of, the first time it was like, and fumbling and, not being able to get my legs up and so on. And it must have looked quite silly. But then a couple of weeks ticked along. I mean, I moved them and just sort of moved them up towards the sky for a while, did that for a week, and then realized it was never going to make any change. I started putting bags on top of them as well. Just thinking like, especially the facial recognition units, because there are also facial recognition cameras going up as well, which also have this same capability of beam forming and whatever. So they identify your face and spray radar at you, so they know who you are and whatever. And I was putting bags over the facial recognition units, knowing that if I put a bag over the phased array units, it wouldn't do anything. It penetrates most things, and like Wi-Fi penetrates walls. You got to think, if your Wi-Fi router's in another room and you can get signal from it, then that's going through thick walls. Yeah,
And for blocks, right? Like I turn on my Wi-Fi and there's like 60 of my neighbors come up. So that's like across the street and down the block and through several concrete layers of
yeah,
structure. Yeah.
that's it. And I would say that the building materials have been changed over time to accommodate for the telecommunications. I think it's a
Interesting.
very big, multi-layered design that's being put into place. A lot of people have said that, yeah, if we had lead paint still, we would actually be able to quite easily create Faraday boxes in our rooms.
Right.
Yeah,
And then they
it's
demonized the lead paint. That
yeah,
became a massive campaign.
for sure. And I'm not saying it's not poisonous or whatever, but just on that level, there's a level of awareness that would have gone with that had it been around now. Oh, if you use lead paint, like imagine how simple it would be just to say, oh yeah, by the way, if you get the lead paint, then you're not going to have all that radiation when you sleep.
Right.
But of course, because it's not in the zeitgeist, it's not being spoken of, then we don't talk of it.
Okay.
But yeah.
Can I throw something your way that's come my direction in the last few months
Yeah.
is of little known toxicity that is called an allergy, but in reality, there's no allergy, there's only toxicity. And it's to do with nickel.
Mm,
So interestingly, it's extremely well researched. And so you can find a great deal, like the person that I'm following, Garrett Smith, who I always shout out to, he has done more than 34 hours of live streaming on nickel toxicity, and he's not even done by any stretch. There's so much to cover, and it all draws the same conclusion. So to cut to the point, what we're talking about here, nickel is both electromagnetic or it's magnetic and electric. And so it is part of nickel cadmium batteries, for example. So
mm,
it's not only part of Garrett was guessing that it's part of how they're going to power their system is turning us
mm,
all into batteries with enough nickel. And people are up to here in nickel. Like if you put on a cheap bracelet and you get a reaction, you are already overflowing with nickel toxicity because
yeah,
one little insult is going to take you out like that or give you a reaction. Well,
absolutely.
we spent the last 2-3 months now. His community who's experienced a lot of really deep detox off the charts. I won't go deep into it, but the nickel toxicity has been very dramatic. When you've got some cleaned out pathways, when you start to reduce nickel, it's on a really big hurry to get out. So you can just start to see how the technologies and the ubiquitous silent nickel, they focus on lead, they focused on mercury to keep our attention away from some of these much bigger things. Even copper toxicity is known to be very bad, but nickel is easily 10 times worse
Yeah.
than that. So yeah, I'd be curious if you keep your eyes open around the nickel kind of thing.
Yeah, not specifically, but definitely toxification. I've been, going down those rabbit holes for a long time. And it's definitely no surprise when I hear that they're, highly conductive elements that are being found more and more, because we are the antenna that, links all of this stuff up. The stuff is actually to put us on the network. And for example, with the spraying that's going on, I have friends of friends who they test their sweat out of saunas and stuff, and they get the same elements all the time, in their lab tests that come back. And they're all metals that seem to subdue the mind. They're diamagnetic, your kind of aluminiums and that kind of stuff, which also dielectric as well, and they become very resistive. So when your synapses and neurons are firing and whatever, it just creates this kind of damp dullness. Nothing's firing. It's clear that it's a pranic kind of weapon as well. I say a weapon, I mean the big weapon. It's all about prana. If you look at the weather and how these towers have coincided with this kind of stagnant weather that we all get, and these strange, like massive outpours of energy and whatever, it's almost like a stagnancy in the pranic field. And again, as within, so without. We're having that inside as well, with forgetfulness and slips of the mind, and I do it all the time. And certainly it's a good idea to keep on detoxing, and I try to sauna fairly often just to sweat these particles out and things. And it seems to be quite a good way of doing it, but obviously along with other things as well. Fasting has been a huge part of my journey.
Right on. That's great. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, if you're interested to connect with Garrett Smith, he is kind of vigilante. You guys are made of the same straw, and I won't belabor it since we'll come back and start to close up for this interview. But it's everything you thought about natural health isn't true. Basically, that is equally as weaponized. It's red team, blue team. If you didn't get sucked in by jabs and masks, then you might have got sucked in by ivermectin and femben and um, what else kind of stuff. There's lots of stuff.
Well, nano, yeah, like
Mhm.
the nanoization, let's say, of things that we knew of to be healthy, and then it's like, oh, you've now got it in nano and it can penetrate the cells, because there isn't a cell in the human body that can filter that smaller particle.
And there are times for it. So it's not a simplistic, say, like right now I'm drinking MCPs, it's modified citrus pectin, and this does cross into the blood, and it's meant, that's why I take it. It's a nickel. I don't know if chelator is the right word or not, but it picks up nickel in the blood, which almost every other chelator, like activated charcoal or a clean zeolite, will only pick up stuff out of the gut. It can't get in the blood because it's not nano. And now I don't know if this is nano either, but anyway, it's modified to be small enough to get into the blood. So it's the subject is more highly nuanced, so they come along and they're like nano bad. And it's true in a lot of cases. It is true. But then there's going to be other places where you're just going to go no, because of that much more, less scientific, less willing to look in and actually learn the situation of what it is. So that's a whole other rabbit hole. I'll point you in his direction if you like, because you guys would get along very well.
Yeah, I mean, just on that, just to give you my kind of in a nutshell thoughts on it, after a lot of experiencing with various different things, I've kind of come to the conclusion that, like you're saying, there's a lot of different games being played with it, money making and outright trickery and whatever. But I've come so much more back into my body now that I don't take any supplements anymore. And a lot of people are like, whoa, that's not necessarily what you should be doing. But I've come to this conclusion that every plate of food that ends up in front of me is exactly what I need. Obviously I make choices of where to not eat. But generally speaking, the gratitude that comes with every plate is my supplements, let's say. And yeah, that's the transformation of energy that I put into my food now. So
nice. Yeah. That's good. All right. Sorry for my rant there.
You're good.
It's on the brain. Nickel detox is always on the brain. Such a big subject.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's amazing. I'm really happy to have heard your story. I'm happy to share your work. I want everybody to go to your Telegram and follow along the journey. Here is a direct link to it. Is there anything else that you'd like me to share out about what people should do or how to connect with you?
I would really recommend, even if you're not just in the UK, I'd recommend going to saveusnow.org.uk and checking out the information that they have on there, and even getting in contact. They have friends around at least the Western countries, and they'll be able to support if you really want to go out and take action. Don't go without receipts. Get ready for what ensues.
Sure. Yes. And this brings us to the most important point. But before I do, so it's www.saveusnow. What was the end of that?
So I've got it on my t-shirt here. Save Us Now. Yeah. And then .org.uk.
Okay. Just wanted to get that URL for people in the chat here, so that they can click on that. And then, so yeah, the trust the silence is what you're doing at this stage, because you've been arrested twice and yet no charges have been laid.
Yeah.
So do you want to let us know how this is working in, not of course just your favor, but like that this is hopeful for the whole
Yeah.
issue?
I mean, yeah, it's been incredibly optimistic for so many people, you know, who have been fighting this fight for a long time. And to put it in a nutshell, once again, me and a few others very recently have gone out and taken action locally, all with slightly differing personalities and ways and whatever. But I went for my 120% or nothing approach, which isn't, you know, necessarily for everybody. I went to my council and I put in a freedom of information request.
Mm-hmm.
If I could really quickly share this freedom of information request on screen, is that
Of
cool?
course. Yeah.
Yeah. One moment. Share screen. There we go.
I'm sure you're familiar with Christine Massey. She's the queen of FOIA requests.
I haven't heard the name, but I might have come across her actually. Yeah.
She keeps trying to get them to prove that that the CV virus causes disease.
Okay. With FOIA requests.
Yeah, and 100% of them have come back negative.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful tool, and yeah, this is really what makes my case quite an amazing one. So, are you seeing it on the screen currently?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, I'll just take away that left box. And my question essentially, just here in the blue box, it says, please provide all safety data held by the council regarding, oh, sorry, that's actually not the right one. No, okay. I'll bail out here, but
Okay.
I'll just tell you about it then. That's my second
Okay.
one. So I sent off a freedom of information request, and I was asking for all of the makes and models of the equipment that was being rolled out on the traffic lights. And they need to respond in 28 days. They took the full 28 days, of course. And it came back on the 28th day, and it basically said, we have 15 makes and models of equipment. 7 or 8 of them, we know the manufacturers, but we don't know how they work. The means of operation is unknown, right? And then the other ones, we don't know who the manufacturers are, but we know how they work.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. And it was literally like that, almost split in half. You know, there wasn't one that had both of those columns filled. And that was when, you know, I just couldn't deal with that. You know, you're putting out radar. So you go to AGD Systems, who make these units that I've been disabling, and it says radar units. And then you're saying you don't know how they work. And it's your job to keep everybody safe. You've got, you know, oaths and whatever. And so I went for the, I'm not going to put in a criminal complaint or whatever. I'm just going to go out and do this, you know. And the moment that I cut the first one, it was on. You know, it's a 1 or a 0. It's not like, oh, you only cut one, so you're all right. It's like, now I'm, in their eyes, committing criminal damage until proven otherwise. So let's go for it. And I industrialized the process. I'll put it that way.
What does that mean?
As in, I wanted to make as much impact as quickly as possible. So I worked on how I was getting up there as quickly as possible, my tools, you know, when I went out, how I did it, you know, how I would interact with people who saw me, and really just got to work. I got really busy for 3 weeks, just going around the city. I know the city very well. Another very important part of being in your hometown.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know the alleyways, I know how to get around, and I made a huge impact. You know, when the media storm hit me, where they put my mugshot out in the papers, and we're looking for this man. They were saying he's destroyed 200 traffic sensors. Of course, they're not traffic sensors, but they, you know, that's to be continued as well, because they've put my face out as a criminal. And of course, it's going to be found that I'm not eventually, however long this roundabout goes on for, who knows. But the others who have popped up around the country who are taking action, they do it in the more, let's say, official route, submitting a criminal complaint, and then once it's not answered, then they go and take action. But also my case, they falsely arrested me by their own protocols. They cuffed me round the back, even though I wasn't resisting. And there were 7 or 8 of them on top of me, for the first arrest. And yeah, it was really like they came with all the force. And from that, the word has spread around most of the police sort of stations around the UK, and they don't come with that same force anymore. So it goes to prove that the more of us have these experiences, and the more the police have these experiences, the more normalized it becomes. And that's, like a friend of mine was saying the other day, this is like a big jigsaw puzzle. And every time we put in another piece, like I've done, the picture becomes more clear, and everything becomes easier. And so it's every action that we take is making it easier for other people to take action. And that's kind of, in a way, a good conclusion, I think.
That really is. Yeah. And I think you said it already with the website that you gave, but if this inspires someone to go like, oh my God, yeah, I got that same camera at my corner here, and I'm going to do the same thing. Are you open to them reaching out, or do you prefer they go through saveusnow.org.uk, or what kind of advice would you give them?
I mean, yeah, I don't mind people reaching out through Trust the Silence for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The Save Us Now team will definitely answer emails and things.
Mm-hmm.
What happens quite often in the comments of our Facebook pages and things is people saying, hey, we've got loads of these in our local area. Can you come over here? And, it's important to be very clear that like no one's coming. Yeah.
No one's coming. Exactly. I mean, you got your hands full over there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And now that's amazing that you literally want to be charged so you can go to court and present the evidence.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
then
that's an important thing just to go through. Sorry to interrupt, but
no, yeah, please do.
yeah, I really would like to be in court. That's actually where I am. I want to, I've already submitted my evidence in the custody interview, which really the collecting of evidence starts at the moment the police come to your door.
Right.
So one of the golden nuggets of this whole thing is something in the UK that's called Operation Tala. Have you heard of it?
Just from you and from seeing the video. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that shareable some other way than just Telegram? Like I can share it on my Telegram, but is there a YouTube version of that we can
Yeah.
provide?
Yeah. I'll send you after this a video of Mark Sexton, who was the bloke who really brought it to light.
Okay.
Just to put it in a nutshell for everybody, all of the police chiefs of the UK and the highest of government met up in around 2020 to discuss the suppression of all jab-related harms. And just hit one of those hot words potentially, but basically they suppressed everything, and now it's known. We know that they're criminally complicit in a mass murder, essentially. So it's important to know, for example, these things which protect you, because you can literally say to them, I will bring this up in every court date from here onwards. And then it's like, okay, this guy's not going to court. I do want to go to court, but at the same time, the first time I was picked up, it was a first experience for me. And, it's nice to have these protections. So you say those things out loud and it protects you, but it also stops you from going where you want to go. And that's the lawfare that we're subjected to, right? But we've got someone going into court the 27th of this month for a pre-trial hearing, and that's going to be a great opportunity to get the evidence in court and then on the public record. So far, this has not been spoken about on the public record in court once, and there are probably between 10 or 20 of us who have been arrested and not charged. Really famous Bladerunner in England, Matt Houston, has actually been alleged to have committed £6 million worth of damage I think the charge that they wanted him on was conspiracy to commit that amount, because he was sharing it on social media and so on. No charge, right? And it's just like, it doesn't matter about the value actually at that point. You know, for me it was 200 units, and for someone else it might be just 10, but they can't put us away. So it goes to show that, you know, in this very beautiful world, that there are pathways that we can go down that are always there, you know, and just to keep trying, keep finding that information that's going to protect you. You will find it, you know, seek and you shall find. Put your feelers out, go into different groups, ask around. You will find people. But I would say Save Us Now is a great beginning point, because they've got a lot of experience in this. And bear in mind also that it is all a weapon. You know, the cameras are weapons and whatever. My focus is more on the radar, because it very much is deadly, unlike facial recognition, so to speak. But at the end of the day, it's all part of the same system. And so you will have protection in law, especially in Commonwealth countries and the States. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you've been thinking about doing this, then do it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, yeah.
Yeah.
Just don't be hasty, and yeah, get your head round what's going on and arm yourself with the paperwork. Also, not to talk about it too much, but the paperwork is great and it's a tool that can help you, but it's not going to save you. To actually absorb that information truly. And if they took all of your paperwork off you and then put you in court, could you still, you know, explain your knowledge? Could the judge of that courtroom say, actually, this is a highly knowledgeable person? That's what we're aiming for, you know.
Right.
We need to understand the enemy, so to speak.
Right. Well, I don't know if you've considered this other stage of the hero's journey to you know, bring the elixir back and mentor others. So I hope that's in your future. Say a prayer for that once you're maybe further down the line and not getting harassed and arrested.
Absolutely. I mean, on that note, if anyone does want to reach out and you have a community, you know, or a few friends, or say 5 to 10 people, and you want a talk through of, you know, exactly my steps, or you're interested to know more about my evidence and that kind of stuff, then feel free to reach out. You know, I can do Zoom, Jitsi Meet kind of things. But certainly if you're in the UK and you have a community who are wanting to take action, get in touch. I can even come, I can drive and so on. So yeah, wherever you are, you know, the crew is growing, and yeah, the more we pass information around, the better. So we're supported with each other, eh?
Exactly. Yeah. So please at least do share this interview, share that link to the Telegram channel, and trust the silence, which I really love. That's such a great play on the other garbage that the slogan that we had to hear so much.
Absolutely.
So is there anything else that we haven't covered that you really wanted to share?
I did have a few notes, but I'm pretty sure I've touched on all of it. I'm just gonna have a little check. Yeah, that's it for me. Yeah, for sure. I hope everybody got quite a well-rounded picture of the last few months.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this, and absolutely we did. Jackie K in the chat is asking. She says it's 24 people online now, and only 14 likes. So please do take the time, if you can, to. That always gives every stream a little bit of a chance to get out there. And this is a censored channel, so thank you everyone for coming out. Nice to see Rick Bonner. Haven't seen you for a while, and Jenny liked it. Thank you very much. So I will be back tomorrow with Will Keller, another freedom fighter, and I look forward to that interview as well. God bless you on your channels. I'll stay in tune, but definitely if for some reason I'm not up to speed on things and you want me to share something out, then please don't hesitate
Cool.
to
Yeah, I'll
keep me.
stick you on my list for people to send stuff out to. And
Please
yeah,
do.
I've got some big ideas to raise more awareness over the coming weeks. I just wanted to get the podcasts done and then get back on it. So yeah, busy times ahead. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone, and thank you, Beth, for having me.
It's my great pleasure.
Yeah.
All right, my dears. Just want to also let you know that this Thursday we are starting our course. It is a workshop series for 8 series. It's on the hero's journey and the archetypes, and learning how to deprogram the false personalities that are there through scene work, through showing up in these roles, kind of like real life, only really for the purpose of studying, getting to know yourself, watching yourself go through sometimes very unexpected motions through improvisation, and then having the tools to be able to use that adversity. What, self-awareness is an adversity, right? It always shows up as pain first. Can you agree with that? Do you agree with that, Ben?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
That's just how it is. So we gotta become more resilient to that. Less just, keep seeking the good feelings and keep trying to keep away the bad feelings and experiences, and run into these storms that the controllers are creating for us. We can use them against them.
Yeah. I mean, you nearly got me going off again, but could I say one more thing
Yes,
on
of
that
course.
note?
Yes, you can.
This, as within, so without, I found working on the social media level, where you put stuff out, you're going to get trolls, you're going to get hate, you're going to get, this discomfort that comes with even friends and family coming out saying things and gesturing to you being insane and whatever. And I've come to find that those are internal feelings. They are, it's yourself questioning yourself, and you're tackling those things that stopped you from saying what you wanted to say because of the potential social ramifications. And so the internal work comes first, and then it really sets you up for speaking online and being the person who you are without, with grace. So
That's a great way to cap it, and makes sense now why you and Diana are friends, because you're really on the same page with that. Yeah, yeah. If you do the inner work, the outer work actually, it might still be scary, but it's not. It's way scarier in here. Unfortunately, it's like terrifying in here. So yeah, that's a really, really great way to leave it. Well, thank you so much, Ben, for joining. You're getting lots of appreciation in the chat. I'm going to play us out. And keep me posted. Maybe I'll have you back on again if there's any developments that you want to share.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. It's been a pleasure.
Lots of love, and bye for now. We'll see you tomorrow back at, I think, 1 o'clock.
See you soon.
Okay,
Bye.
bye for now.